Hello there, this is Ryan as it's Murphy, and I'm going to be doing a redo on my Hinterkaifeck murders video. Because I got a lot of complaints about the background music on the first one, and for some reason YouTube removed all the ads and stuff off of it. I've never gotten a reply back on why that happened, and it might seem a little mercenary of me, but it is one of my videos that gets quite a few hits, and now I'm not getting any for it at all, which makes no sense. So, enough BS, and let's get into the story. Um, so this all starts in 1922. It happened on a farm in, uh, this is back in the day, 1922, no mass communication, not really much in the way of mass transit going on. And there's these two Bavarian towns in Goldstadt and Strobenhausen. Because I have to get this positioned a little better. Okay. And it's a farmstead in between these two towns, which is usually how that stuff was set up. I mean, it still is kind of sort of but we don't have as many farms as we used to through the countries of the world. It'd always be like there'd be towns and then lots of farmsteads around, and then if you needed supplies or whatever, you'd go to one town or the other, whichever was closer, whichever one had the stuff you needed. So you got these two towns and this farmstead between them. Okay, I'm trying to paint a picture for you. It's Germany, 1922, wintertime. Okay, snow on the ground, countryside, otherwise a very nice setting. But that, of course, is going to change for the townspeople, and especially the family of the Hinterkaifeck farm. I think that's right. Doesn't really matter. But the whole thing started before there was any actual crime. The man who ran the farm, owned it, Andreas Gruber, he told some neighbors that he had found some footprints, weird footprints, heading to the house from the edge of the forest. Or the edge of the farm where it met the forest, in towards the house, but there were no returning footprints. Also told him that they had been hearing footsteps up in the attic. They found a newspaper in the house that no one admitted to bringing in, and some of the house keys had gone missing. So it seemed like somebody might actually have been in the house with them, but then they'd go look and never found anything. So about 6 months before that, the old maid had left the farm because she thought it was haunted, and a new maid had arrived on the 31st of March, and that turned out to be only hours before whatever happened. Okay, so between the 31st of March and the 4th of April, the family just kind of disappeared. They didn't go into town. The little girl didn't go to school. Nobody heard anything from them. So on the 4th of April, people went to see what the hell was going on. Because people actually cared about each other in those days more. In small communities, and they still do in smaller communities, but, people that you're used to seeing regularly don't show up for a while. You go find out what's wrong with them. People's sick, something happened to them. People want to know. And, what they found totally shocked everyone. And it's still one of those incidents that people get really interested in and try and figure it out, because it was a crime and it was never solved. Okay? So Andreas Gruber, his wife Kazelia, their daughter Victoria, her daughter, who was also named Kazelia, they were all found dead in the barn. They had been killed with pickaxe. And Victoria's 2-year-old son Joseph was found dead in his cot in the house, and Maria Baumgartner, the new maid, was found dead in her bedchamber. So yeah, she showed up a few hours prior and had been murdered in the night. Yeah, very brutal. I mean, they had been killed with a pickaxe, and whoever had done it had been very thorough, except in one instance. Because the young girl, Kazelia the younger, she had been alive for a while after she had been attacked, because she had torn out bits of her hair, and they found signs that she had lived for a while. At first, of course, they suspected robbery, but after an investigation, they found nothing had been taken. There was nothing missing. In fact, they found money in the house that was in plain sight. People could have taken it. No one did. And, after looking into it and the autopsies being done, they ruled, various pieces of evidence. They figured that they had to have been killed, because I believe the 31st was like a Friday night, and then the 4th was like a Tuesday or Wednesday or something. I'm not counting through the days there, but a few days later in the week, and so whatever had happened like Friday or Saturday. Okay, so let me see here, because I've got some facts here. Okay. I mean, the animals had been fed more recently than they had been killed. Food had been eaten. People had reported smoke coming out of the chimney over the weekend. So whoever killed them was in the house for at least a couple of days after they had done it. Okay, that's one of the real creepy things about it. But the reasons they came to the conclusions that it had happened that night is because mail was still outside from, I think, Saturday or Friday. Saturday. So they figured it had to have been done the night before, because nobody would have just left the mail sitting outside in the snow. Okay. And let me. Okay, yeah. So I guess they had school on Saturdays then, and the girl hadn't been there. So that was another reason why they figured it had to have happened during the Friday night. And her absence Monday was one of the main things that led to him going to check up on stuff. There's always the possibility that the crime did take place later, but all the evidence they could find, seemed to indicate that it had happened on the 31st or very early on the 1st in the early morning, and whoever did it was in the house for a while afterwards. There was a lot of weird stuff going on with this case. There was accusations of incest between Gruber and his daughter Victoria. The age of her daughter, Victoria's daughter, made it. Her husband was supposed to have been killed in World War I in 1914. So the age of her daughter actually made it possible that the daughter wasn't even her husband's, and of course the young son wasn't his, definitely. The incest thing, people thought both kids could have been the father, her own, their own grandfather's kids or something. That's kind of type of shit. None of that was ever verified, though. Although people in the area considered this relationship a fact. but nobody knows if the young boy was definitely a result of the incest or if she was fucking around with other people too. The timeline, they figured that the maid arrived in the afternoon of the 31st, and again they found mail. They found mail that the postman had left on Saturday, so they figured, like I said, that it had to have taken place late on the 31st, or sometime on the 1st before the post arrived. Just they figured that the family members that were found in the barn had to have been lured in one at a time and then attacked and killed, except for the little girl who died from her injuries after a period of time. There were some thoughts on the case. Some of the various theories are that it was the husband who wasn't really killed. He was only wounded, or maybe lost his memory for a while or something, and then came back and found out about the incest, and she had another child, and, you know, that whole kind of Sweeney Todd, I thought I was going to come back to a child and family, and it's all gone type of thing going on. And there's never been any evidence to support that at all. The only reason why it's ever been considered a viable theory is that his body was never found. He was like MIA. And really it doesn't make that much sense. I mean, it's possible that he would kill the boy, the little boy, but why would he kill his own daughter? You know, and the maid too. I mean, that just seems a little bit extreme for somebody who's angry about this relationship that's dead and corrupted and all that sort of thing. The bodies had been covered up. So, usually when they find bodies that, you know, people have been murdered, the bodies are covered up, especially the faces. That usually means that the person who killed them knew them and didn't want them looking at them anymore, won't have to look at their faces. So, that kind of suggests that whoever killed them knew them. You know, somebody that wanted to rob them, a vagrant or somebody, they wouldn't have left the money, and they wouldn't, you know, it doesn't make much sense that they would go to that kind of extreme measures. Some sort of early, you know, well, there's been serial killers as long as there's been people, probably, but, you know, it doesn't really smack of a serial killer either, because there weren't any similar cases like this, so it seems that it had to have been personal. So, it seems like the most likely killer, in my opinion, is whoever the father of Joseph was, or possibly someone who was in love with Victoria. And the research I've done into this is that the most likely suspect seems to be a guy called Lorenz S., who at one point Victoria claimed was the father of Joseph. The guy denied it. And he was the one that accused her of having incest with her father. Then he later at another time did say he was the father of the kid, possibly hoping to marry into this family that had money. But that is all a bit weird, but the thing that kind of pushes me in the direction of thinking that's probably the correct analysis is that apparently he had gotten married, because all this stuff had happened a bit before, and his wife had just had a baby, and the baby had died, and this is only a short time before the murders took place, and on top of that, Victoria was trying to get child support out of him. Okay, and again, and on top of all that, he was with the search party that found the bodies, and oddly he displayed, this is according to the people that were there, he displayed a very familiar knowledge of the property while they were searching, and he was messing around with everything. I mean, this is 1922. They know about fingerprints at this point, and he's messing around with stuff while they're supposed to be searching. So it really does look like this Lorenz-esque guy was the most likely suspect to have been the killer, but they can never find anything to pin it on him definitively. But then again, there was stuff that I found that could have been used to excuse him. You know, like I said, they never could find any real solid evidence about anyone who did it. You know, and it's possible he would have stolen the house key, but that really doesn't explain the footprints or the footsteps in newspaper that were found in the house. Or was that just Gruber trying to wind up his buddies for some reason? You know, and why would he go ahead and kill the maid too and the little baby? I mean, I could understand somebody getting pissed off at the family because now it seems like they have everything that he doesn't, but killing a completely innocent woman who is asleep in her bed and then a tiny baby who is defenseless. I mean, enraged over his own child dying, or, you know, when it's possible that, you know, more possible that he could have actually adopted the kid since she was trying to get child support out of him. He could simply, you know, kill them, say, oh, this is my child, and then take it, and then he and his wife would have a child again. So, you know, of course, you can't always psychoanalyze somebody that's in the middle of a rage, but it seems a bit weird. You know, but why would he hang around in the house after killing them and care for the animals and eat the food too? But again, from another angle, he thought they were evil. I mean, you know, that they were bad people. They were horrible. So again, it's possible that he murdered them all after working himself up into some religious fervor over, you know, these are sinners and they must die. But in the end, there's no way to certainly know because everyone involved in it is long dead and buried. So it's one of those weird, crazy-ass murder cases that will never be solved, unfortunately. But that gives weirdos like us who enjoy weird mystery something to be weird about. So, there you have it. That's the Hinterkaifeck murders.